Hi, everyone. Welcome to our our live presentation of Tell Me a Story. My name is Robert Langdon, and this is Emerge Gallery that I'm in right now. Hi, everyone. Welcome to, hold on, our live presentation. I guess I am live. Okay, so what I'm going to do is do a little presentation, go through, show you, we're going to look at each piece in the show, have some of the artists join us and talk about their work. Let me tell you a little bit about the show. It's called Tell Me a Story, and the work is all very narrative artwork. So what I'm doing is I'm inviting artists or writers to come in throughout the month and finish writing the stories that the artist started in their artwork. It could be an essay, a piece of fiction, a poem, completely up to you. The whole idea is I curated some work that will hopefully inspire some creativity in writers. I'm asking that writers submit their work to the gallery by emailing it to emergegalleryny@gmail.com. The created work will go up on the website, and then we're also going to be hosting another one of these live readings on October 25th at 3 o'clock. So I will be inviting writers to come on and share the work that they've written for the work that's on the walls. So I want to start first by showing you the window installation that we have. This is a piece by Robert Latch, and Robert is an artist in New Jersey that uses all recycled materials. I am going to bring up Robert to talk about his work. Robert, you are on. Yep, you're unmuted. There you go. I'm going to bring you. There you go. Great. Can you say something, Rob?
Hello.
Okay, great. Well, we want to look at the art, so I'm going to bring the spotlight back to me.
Good. Okay.
Okay, great. So tell us about this, about the installation, Robert.
Okay, the installation is titled American Tourister, and it's named from the brand of luggage that it is. It's American Tourister luggage. And basically the suitcases are gutted. The insides are gutted and broken into tiny pieces. And then I construct these nest-like structures from these inner materials. I call them nests and nest-like colonies. The centerpiece is, I call it the Suitcase Skeleton. There are 4 suitcases that are fishing lined in a symmetrical line. And then in between each suitcase, there is a nest that is constructed from the suitcase above it. For this, this is probably the 3rd time I showed the installation, and I have updated some of the nests. I've included some new kinds of materials, fiber, string into these particular nests. The other 2 sculptures on either side are both based on the same concept of the suitcases are created and the sculptures are created from the inner pieces of the suitcase. These are vintage old wooden suitcases that were all hand shredded into these little bits. And then I glued them into these kind of nest-like structures. But the work is based on the architecture of nature, birds, animals, bee nests. And I feel like this particular one is, it's similar to the other ones, but this one I have the birds suspended and also thrown around on the ground there. Most of all the materials are recycled or, gathered from curbside pickups. I feel like my work is based on my own personal story. Growing up I lived in many places, so home was a place that was moving, like we were moving a lot. And I think that's where this work comes from. Initially, I didn't make that connection with the work, but the way I work, usually the meanings come out after I'm making, or as I'm making the work, or after the work is completed. There was this obsessive nature with making these nests, so I knew that there was something more going on. So I feel like it ties in well with the theme of the show.
It does, yeah. The whole idea of home, and you know what's going on now with immigration. I think it's very appropriate for the show. All right, thanks, Robert.
Okay.
Really pleased to have them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to do a quick little show of tour of the show on the wall to give you an idea of what we have here on the wall. There are also some additional works on Artsy that you can choose from. All of the work that is that are on the walls here are on Artsy, as well as a handful of additional works that will hopefully inspire some writers to create themselves and share the work with us. All right, and as I mentioned, there's going to be 17 of the artists that are going to be joining us for this little tour. Okay, so let's get down to business. All right. So this, as I mentioned, is our Artsy page. It's artsy.net. And you will see here the full exhibition with some of the other pieces. If you click on each piece, it'll give you some detail. So we're going to go ahead and do that. All right, our first artist to bring up is Eileen Kennedy. Eileen has two pieces in the show. This is called BFFs, and the second is called Donna Nobis Pachem. So welcome, Eileen.
Hi. Thanks, Robert, for this opportunity. As you said, I'm an artist. I'm down here in Red Bank, New Jersey. I'm primarily working egg tempera. So the first piece is BFFs, which was a little statement on what BFFs really means. These are me and my two best friends, one in the middle from kindergarten and one on the left from high school. And we're still in touch with each other, even though we live all over different places in the country. I work in egg tempera. So I actually make my own paint as I go along from egg yolk and raw pigments. And you can see, if you look closely at the detail, you can see that the paintings are all made up of little marks. That's because when you apply tempera to the panel, they're all done on panel. The paint dries pretty much instantly. So you have to achieve transitions by just shifting, slight shifts in color, sort of like pen and ink in color. And they take a long time to do. This piece, Donna Nobis Pachem, took probably about 5 months just in the painting time, not including the drawings. And the other piece, the earlier piece, about 4. Now, on the schedule, Robert, it said you were going to talk about Donna Nobis Pachem, or did you?
No. Please, you go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So Donna Nobis Pachem was a piece that I sing in choral groups. I was singing in the Shrewsbury Chorale, but occasionally I go do an open sing with the Monmouth Civic Chorus, which is a big choral group down here. And in that they did Ralph Vaughan Williams' piece, Donna Nobis Pachem, which is a choral masterwork that he wrote on the eve of World War II. He had been, I believe he had been a medic in World War I and was devastated. He was British and was devastated by the death and destruction of that. And so he took Walt Whitman's poetry, anti-war poetry, and then pieces of the Catholic Mass, which is the Dona Nobis Pacem, which means grant us peace. And he combined them into a work. And it took me about a year to work out how I was going to portray that. But this is what I came up with. And so that's actually my son, Thomas, whose face is on the picture. And I used an American World War I uniform because it's so sort of iconic. And so that's pretty much the story of that.
They're really beautiful, Eileen. I mean, they definitely deserve to be seen in person. I just, you look real close at them and just even.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very difficult to see them online. I mean, I do hire a professional photographer to just so I can get the detail. And since I only complete like 2 or 3, sometimes 4 pieces a year, I can afford to do that. So.
Yeah, they're gorgeous, and they're definitely very narrative. I mean, it's an ancient tradition of painting, or ancient method. But I mean, the stories are timeless. Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you.
Okay, the next artist we have, I took a few abstract pieces. Didn't take many, but sometimes one of the things that I like about abstract, and one of the things that a lot of people don't like about abstract, is that you can just look at it and what you bring in your experience and you see what your experience tells you to see. A lot of people have a problem with abstract because they need to see something recognizable in it. And they can't just let their emotions take over. So I did want to bring a couple abstract pieces in to just give you an idea. And if someone responds to abstract, this is by Mimi Young. Mimi lives here in the Hudson Valley. This is called Shadow. It's acrylic, graphite, and charcoal on paper, and it measures 24 by 29. Couple more abstract pieces. Abstract-ish. This is called Bone by Yvette Lewis. It's a monotype, 16 by 20, created in 2019. And then there's another piece by Yvette as well called Offering, also a monotype, 12 by 20. Lucinda, is Lucinda here? No? Well, this is by Lucinda Abra, and I know that Lucinda, did she just text me? I know Lucinda wants to join us. So what I might do is, I just got a text from her. So I'm going to move on to the next piece and we'll go back to Lucinda. Okay, our next is by Will Nixon. Will, I love this piece. It reminds me, I know you have a Night of the Living Dead poem, and when I see this piece, it reminds me of the opening scene of Night of the Living Dead. I don't know if you're all familiar with it, but I'm too familiar with it. Yeah, and there's just so many stories that people can write to a photo like this. So yeah, tell us about this photo, Will. Will Nixon.
I guess the one thing I would say about it is I love walking in the woods. I've had a very outdoorsy life. I moved up from Midtown Manhattan to a log cabin in the Catskills in 1996. So I really have had a lot of time out in the woods. I took up photography maybe 5-6 years ago using an iPad and an iPod and now an iPhone. And it's striking to me how rarely I find an interesting picture to take in the woods. So I think this was one of the few where I was able to see and find something that intrigued me as a picture, as opposed to so much of when I'm walking around the woods, I just see trees. It's very beautiful, but I don't know how to photograph it. So that's what caught my eye here, is just it was an unusual shot of being out in the woods.
Yeah, it's a great angle too. So many things you could say in it, almost like the trees are growing the roots, or yeah.
Yeah.
A great little piece.
Thanks,
You
Robert.
gonna write something for the show? Hopefully you'll get inspired by some of the pieces, Will.
My eyes are open and my ears are open.
Excellent. I like that. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
We've got two pieces now by Susan Hoffer. This is the first piece. This is called Vote. This is called, Just Vote, but not against your own interests. It's oil on cradled hardwood. It's 16 by 20. It was created in 2019. And then the second piece that I'm going to show you by Susan is called Persuadables of Cambridge Analytica. This is also oil on cradled hardwood, 16 by 20, 2019. I'm just going to read a little bit of what Suzanne had provided me with. The view of my father shows how I saw him when I was a small child, and because of my small size, had to look up at him. That is the first piece that I showed you. We'll bring that up. My father read the newspaper and watched NBC News every night. He said his biggest sadness was knowing that people in poor rural areas continually vote against their own interests, and that he hoped they smartened up. That's in quotes. In this painting, he has my smartphone in his shirt pocket. He was very interested in internet research, and this is at Saranac Lake, New York. The second piece, Susan says, I was moved by this couple's thoughtful questioning when I met them, and I was convinced that this was true too of all they read and heard. Persuading is an art, but being persuaded is a choice. Like that. Okay. Stacy Pritchard. Stacy, are you here? No? Okay. Stacy is an artist in Red Bank, New Jersey, I believe. This is a piece called Dislocation. It's oil and charcoal on paper. It's 20 by 20 and it's framed 26 by 26. I knew Stacy when I ran a gallery down in Red Bank, and I love this whole rabbit series. She has some great sculptures too of the rabbits, and of course she's got a little bit of a dark take to it as well, which I'm always drawn to. Sorry, guys, had to plug in my computer. Okay. Marjorie Magid, I love this piece. When she showed this to me, I always keep saying this, that Marjorie's work brings a smile to my face, but this one especially. This is called and I had seen this a number of months ago, and this is the perfect show for it. So welcome, Marjorie.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Robert?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes, and in fact, when you first saw it, I think it was different. I wasn't really satisfied with it when I first started it. But when you announced the show, I figured it was a perfect painting for it, and I started working on it. And I think it became way more lively. It had more movement in it, and the colors became more intense, which I think is what usually happens when I rework a painting, and then I'm satisfied with it. So the original inspiration for this was a poster from the French poster, actually, from the turn of the previous century. And I'm very drawn to those very Art Nouveau kind of posters. There's a sense of style and color that I find very appealing, and I've done several paintings on that. So this is a wild subject, and I like it too. So that's it. I hope people can get good stories from it. This is very different. This is also one I had done a few years ago, and it's a very iconic French subject of a woman sitting in a cafe and a waiter. Obviously also a turn of the century scene, but way stiller and calmer. And there you have it.
Thank you, Marjorie.
You're welcome.
Your works are always very visual. I like it.
Thank you.
Okay, Lucinda, are you here? Yes, here you are. Great. You're on mute, and I am going to bring you up so we can talk about fear. Let's go back to fear. Okay. You have to unmute, Lucinda. No?
I'm unmuted. Can you
Okay,
hear me?
great. We can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay,
Welcome.
here I go.
All right.
Fear is a mixed media work consisting of encaustic, oil, and collage. Containing the visual is a staircase that Escher-like goes nowhere. The negative space it forms is similar to a uterus filled with the potential of birthing even more fear contagion. The landscape, anywhere in America, is ominous and heaving. The sky, dark, foreboding, and threatening, is something that even Stephen King would appreciate. Not long ago, I read a school rhyme being taught with variations throughout the United States to remind children to hide when men with guns come in shooting, presumably to kill them. This is the song that so upset me and inspired the artwork. Lock down, lock the door. Shut the lights off, say no more. Go behind the desk and hide. Wait until it's safe outside. Lock down, it's all done. Now it's time to have some fun.
Wow.
The thought of small innocent children growing up with such stress even before COVID brought the child front and center in this piece. She holds a toy schoolroom. Nestled inside is a paper target practice, within which are her parents of mixed race descent on their very own wedding day. If family trauma is inherited, then surely this little girl has already been dosed with apprehensions. Behind the child, a Black man is on the ground. 2 years ago, Michelle Obama discussed the constant threat of violence based on hatred. Here, an individual who wears a hoodie is down on the ground, terrified in a pose of protection and surrender. He is once again suffering the consequences of the misapprehension and fear of others, the cost of being a Black man in America. Behind the man, a woman is walking through the gloom, terrified, watchful of every sound she hears as she makes her way home from work. She is all too aware that as a woman, she is always more vulnerable to predators. It is estimated that over 700,000 people were raped in the United States in 2018. Most were female, and sadly, some were very young children. I created Fear as a visual reminder of these days of such heightened concerns. Hopefully, it puts us on notice that we can all do better to dispel the darkness that looms so heavily. We must be supportive of one another, recognizing each individual's goodness and offering empathy. We are those lit candles in the picture, and we can glow brighter. Thank you.
Wow, Lucinda. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know Lucinda's writing a piece for this too, so she'll be joining us on the 25th. Lucinda's a fantastic writer as well as a really wonderful artist. Thanks, Lucinda.
Thank you very much.
I have a visitor here, an unexpected visitor who I'm going to turn this over to. Robert Greco has a piece in the show right over here. It is called, I'm sorry. Streets of Prague. Thanks, Rob. Okay, so here's Robert Greco. Robert, you want to go by your piece?
Sure.
And Robert's going to tell us a little bit about his piece here. This was another one of the abstract works that obviously that I chose for people to respond to. So Robert Greco.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. So yeah, this is an abstract piece. It was inspired by a to Prague. It's actually a lot more detailed and a lot more kind of congested than what I usually do. I tend to do a lot more minimalist. But what I found when I was in Prague is that even being such an old city, that it was laid out in such a way where it just had a flow, where you could kind of go from Prague Castle and just down right through the center of town. It was almost designed in a tourist way, even though it was put together so long ago. And I found that the colors were very muted. There were a lot of grays and darker colors. The weather sort of lent to that as well. So I sort of tried to capture that. And so it's all acrylic. It has a layer of wax on top of it. And that is kind of where some of the texture comes in. And yeah, that was sort of my streets of Prague. There's some churches in there. There's a castle in there. There's some nightclubs and there's some art galleries and some shopping.
Of course, there are.
Yeah, so that was my my inspiration.
Great. Well, thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
nice
for having
surprise.
me.
Yeah, absolutely, nice surprise. And I'm sure there's a story in there too somewhere that someone will connect with. So please let us know. Okay, that took me off track a little bit, but now we're going to get back to Kay Kenny. Kay has 2 works in the show. These are both from her Night series. Kay, I just saw you. Here you are. Let me bring you up. Any particular order you want them in, Kay?
No.
This is White Umbrella, and then this one is called Orchard Home, which already a number of people have really responded to this piece already. It's one of my favorites. So please, Kay.
Thank you, Robert. Actually, both of these are very related. They're part of a series that I've done called Into the Night and Into the Middle of Nowhere. And I've been working on this for quite a long time. The feeling that I have when I think about these pieces, when I set them up, and they are setups, is to recreate a sense of the drama that I feel about going into the night, going into these very, very dark places where I really don't know what I'm going to find. And I'm really very much alone. And that sense of foreboding, but also the sense of mystery and excitement that I find. So in this particular piece, the Orchard House, there was actually somebody living in that little shed that you see, and it's lit by a candle inside. And I'm actually there in this image towards the back, and I'm often in my images as a part of kind of grounding a sense of my being there. This is not just a random experience. I've actually explored this place. The fox is just an intruder. It's amazing how many times when I'm out there in the middle of nowhere, I run into these creatures, but I have to acknowledge that sometimes I have to fake it a little bit because they don't actually want to stick around for the photo op. But,
okay, that's a real fox. I was under the impression it was taxidermy. Oh, great.
Well, in this case, it isn't taxidermy, but I have used the real creatures when I've had an opportunity, but they're not often that willing. But so this particular image is very much about that sense of being in the night, of having everybody else being asleep, of being in this kind of sense of a dream world. And the other part of it is that I simply cannot see what the camera is seeing. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to get until later. Now with the glory of digital, I can actually see it on the camera, whereas before, when this photograph was taken, I was using film. So it's an amazing process sometimes when you suddenly have this wonderful moment of revealing to yourself something that you had no idea what you were thinking about. It just happens. The umbrella is another example of that, of being out in the middle of this place. And that's me standing under the umbrella, kind of looking out into what essentially is a very a bright night sky, lots and lots of moonlight there. And again, still not really sure what I'm seeing beyond those shrubs that are in front of me. And the work has always been about the narrative. It's always been about telling the story of dreams and fears and a mix of lots of influences. The biggest one is probably the Dutch landscape painters and the English. So,
And you use natural light and all of this, right? I mean, occasionally you'll use a spotlight or a flashlight.
what
Area,
you're seeing is essentially a flashlight and natural light. Yes, there's a lot of light in the sky when the camera is open for a period of time. I'm amazed at how much the light the camera actually picks up.
Yeah, the whole series is fantastic. I'm really pleased to have them here.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
I don't, what else to say? Do you have other questions? Anybody?
If you get the opportunity, look up the rest of the series. I think, Kay, you have a number of them on your website, right?
Yes, I do. My website is really simple, kkenny.com.
Great. All right. Thanks, Kay.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Tad Richards. Tad's one of, and I've been warming up to digital art. Tad's one of them that has warmed me up to digital art. So welcome, Tad. This is the first piece, and then this is the second piece.
Okay. I worked. This is digital art. I worked on my iPad with an app called Art Studio Pro, and I don't know why I do it. I started doing it, and I liked it, so I've kept doing it. One of the things I really like about it is no brushes to clean. I have always been a writer. I've always told stories. And in my art, the other thing, well, I've always loved to tell stories. In my youth, in my teenage years, I fell in love with the blues. I fell in love with blues singers like Leadbelly, who didn't so much tell stories as suggest them. And that's kind of what I try to do in my art. This picture, which is called Horse at Midnight, is taken from a screen capture from an old film noir, an old grade B film noir, which I watched on YouTube. You can't actually do a screen capture from YouTube because they won't let you. So I just take a photograph of my screen, which obviously isn't much, but it's enough to work from. It's enough to get ideas and shapes, and to create what I call a moment in time. The story is there, but I'm not going to tell it. I'm going to put it out there for the viewer to tell her or himself. We have the woman dressed rather formally. We have the very expensive car. We have someone who may be a chauffeur or maybe something else. She's walking out onto this wharf, and there it is. There it is for you to make what you will of.
Yeah, that's exactly what the show's about. You know, it's to sort of plant those little ideas into people's minds, give them the little that first paragraph, and then let them take it from there.
And you know, and this one, I cannot remember where this one came from, but I did a whole series of this guy with the hat in Mexican settings. And I don't remember where I got the originals from, you know, where I got the guy from, but here he is, and in another room, which is much more colorful, and which he is not part of, there are 3 women and 2 guitar players. He's listening. Maybe he'd like to join. Maybe he doesn't dare join. Maybe he knows something that they don't know. But again, when I'm working visually, when I'm working graphically, I do something very different than I do when I'm writing and telling a story, which is, as much as possible, I try not to think. I try to think with my hands and my eyes to make an image and put it out there, and not do any interpreting of my own.
You convinced me, Chad, as I said, about digital. Yeah, these are really wonderful. This piece is called Man with Hat, Guitars, Senoritas.
Right. It's one of the Man with Hat series.
And then this is Wharf at Midnight. Both of them are digitals. And that's exactly where my mind went, was to a film noir when I first saw this. Mildred Pierce, actually, to be exact.
And I apologize for not giving you actual prints, but I've been moving for the past few weeks and I don't know where anything is, including my printing supplies.
We're all good. It works. Thank you. I appreciate it, Ted.
Okay.
All right, take care. Our next artist is Jean Tanzi. Jean, I saw you come in. Let's bring up your work and let me find you. Here you are. Oh, I don't have a video on for you. Can you hear me, Jean? I have you on audio though. Jean? Okay. Well, I see Jean here. Jean, if you come in, come on in. Let me see if I have some information here about Jean's pieces. This is called Mule Women, and Mule Women, it's watercolor 33 by 22, framed to 37 by 29, and it's a brand new 2020. And it is based on the whole idea of mule women. I'm sorry, I had a whole write-up here about the piece that I cannot find. Let me see if, I'm so sorry about that. Let me see if I can maybe bring it up here. No, okay, I gotta pass on it. This is called Waiting. This is acrylic on canvas, 35 by 22, 2019. And again, this is by Jean Tanzi as well.
Hello, can you hear me?
Jean, okay, yes, here you are.
Having a little difficulty pressing the correct buttons.
Okay, fine, I see you there. Is that you standing in front of, I think I see you.
Standing in front of another painting.
Yeah, I got you. Perfect. Okay.
Excellent.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about my work.
You got it. I'm going to bring up the first piece, Mule Women again. Okay, great.
So this is Mule Women, and it's actually titled after an actual occurrence, which is Mule Women of Malia. I am a bit of a news junkie and also a feminist and someone who's followed working women around the world. And so I'll go on print and online media, and I found out that there are women carrying large sacks of goods across the border. Spain has a small piece of property on the north of Africa. But if people carry the items over, then they are considered luggage and they are not taxed at the tariff level. So it's become quite an industry, and it was interesting, a lot of these women are elderly. And also because luggage isn't inspected, they actually often become mules for illicit trades, including drugs. Because the economy has been faltering around the globe, there's now young men who are also carrying these items across the borders, and they can do 3 to 4 trips, and the women can do 1 or 2, depending on their strength. So I'm very interested in social stratification and economics, labor, and the stories of people's lives, especially women and children. not to exclude men. One of the motifs I came up a few years ago was the idea of the shadow. Our shadows are darker stories, but using the shadow as a visual imagery also. My technique in watercolor is a little unusual. They're quite bold. The colors are bold. And there's a lot of wet on wet within dry areas. So that's the actual application of the paint on the arches paper. I do also acrylic paintings, which there is an example of that also. I purposefully use the beauty of the medium and beautiful colors. I think the typical person anywhere on the planet enjoys the sunset, and the sunrise seems to appeal to our eyes. And so I'm also a big hiker, and I'm also drawn to that. But the stark contrast between the travails that people are going through and the beauty of the brushstroke, especially in my acrylic paintings, they're very painterly. I've been called a painter's painter. I also have thousands of figure drawings under my belt, so that can come off in the gesture. So this was a pre-COVID painting. It was of an actual people waiting in line to get potable water. So it was interesting. What struck me in the imagery was that the individuals were standing actually back to stomach. So they were physically touching the person in front of them. I don't know why that was, if they didn't want to lose their place in line, but the backstory, again, all of my paintings have a backstory, is that they were waiting for aid. And there's many populations of peoples around the world that without humanitarian aid would be literally dying a slow death. So there's that juxtaposition in my work between this very somber story, but very eye-appealing look that I utilized to draw the viewer in.
Fantastic, great. I'm really glad you were able to join us. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jean. They're beautiful. Okay, these are works. The next pieces are by Timothy Ebnith. Timothy's got two pieces in the show. This is called Stuyvesant Knights. It's oil and graphite on paper, 22 to 30, and it's framed to 26 by 35, created in 2012. The second piece is a collage. This one is called The Mother's Heart. 22 by 30, framed to 26 by 35. This is 2016 as well. Louis Alves, Gertrude. This is called Here We Go Again. This is by Gertrude Abramson. It's really difficult to see this piece. Another one of those pieces that would really benefit from seeing in person. There's some really fantastic collage work in here, some real great definition and texture that the pictures don't do it justice. That's Gertrude Abramson. Louis Alves. Louis always has a fun time with pop culture. Louis does all hand-cut collage. Louis lives in New Jersey. This is called Mean Girls. It's 11 by 14, framed to 18 by 20. And then this one, little political take. This is called Birth of a Nation. This one is handmade collage as well, framed to 18 by 20. This is a brand new piece, 2020. Robert Greco, we saw. This is a photograph by Howard Finkelson. Really beautiful photograph. It's right in the back of the gallery. It's a large piece. And Howard had given me, let me see, there's some information I wanted to tell you about Howard. Howard was born in Newark in 1942. That's Newark, New Jersey. He received his BFA in urban design from Rutgers and worked in the field before becoming a professional carpenter and photographer in the 1970s. He's lived in Woodstock and Manhattan since the 80s and exhibited at galleries, theaters, and private collections worldwide from 1990 to the present. His signature photo abstracts were inspired mostly from his travels to Afghanistan, Hawaii, Australia, and China, and not least the Catskill regions. Catsbon International Dance Center has since 2001 presented his dance theater collaborations Form is Emptiness with acclaimed Korean choreographer Soon Ok Lee and Silk Stone Moving with noted Shanghai choreographer Michael Mao. And this is a quote from Howard. The exploration of the textures of our planet is the core of the abstract photos I create. I'm drawn to surfaces in their process of aging, fading, peeling, abrading, and rusting. These images are then cropped, enlarged, and stretched onto linen weave canvas via archival pigment printing and appears as interpretable abstract paintings. It is best described as a world between two art forms that captures the imagination and engages on an emotional plane. Each tells its tale of its origin. And I thought this was a very visual piece. I was, being a writer myself, I was immediately drawn to it. So this is Jacket. It's photography. It measures 53 by 35. We have a few pieces now by Rita Sherry. This is called Masks. It's 2020 mixed media collage. The second piece is called Journey. This is mixed media as well. And then the third piece is a small little sculpture called Penguin on the Brink. It's a ceramic piece. Let me bring you back to this one and I'll tell you a little bit about Rita. Rita says, I work in a variety of media, but frequently my work is any media evolves from a story going on inside me. I see the painting, print, or sculpture as the middle of a narrative, what Marlene Dumas talks about as a suggestion of a narrative. What is going on in my head is not what is going on in the eyes and minds of the viewers. He or she gets to create their own narrative from the work. And I'm hoping that some of the artists or some of the writers that are watching or have a look at the gallery will be inspired to write about this piece. This piece I have a little darker side, so of course I find this piece very timely. This is something I would definitely connect with. Okay. Janet Siskin, this piece is sold. This is called Memories. It is from 2019 and it's a paper litho. The second piece by Janet is called Haunted. This is a monoprint 2020. This is 11 by 14, matted to or framed to 18 by 21. This is a piece by Jetta Badea. Jetta has been using a lot of needlepoint in her work lately. So this is all needlepoint that is attached to the canvas. Another piece that's got some real wonderful texture to it that definitely deserves a viewing in person. It's called Doves and Cherry Blossoms. It's needlework collaged on cradled wood panel. We have a few dog pieces. This is by Sophia Levy. This is called Jasper Waiting for the Train. It's a photograph on metal. It's 8 by 10. I just thought it was a really charming photograph. And I mean, it's, just put yourself in the mind of that dog and just try to think of what he's thinking about. Could be a lazy day. He could be wanting to get home. He could be wishing to be on the train. I think that it would be a pretty cool exercise to think like a dog for a little bit, think like a Jasper. Okay, we have another dog piece. This is by Nancy Cantandela. Nancy is an artist over in Kingston, I believe. This is called Teddy's Day at the Swimming Pool. And this is, Nancy had sent me some information about this, the inspiration for this. Teddy was my lab, was an absolutely adorable and irresistible creature who at 6 weeks old thought nothing of leaping into my small water garden with fish and frogs. His energy and joy of life was enormous. And when we played fetch with a stick or a tennis ball, he couldn't be worn out. I was, but Teddy not. Sometimes he'd take off while in the middle of a game and race through the woods with maniacal glee. I would frantically shout, Teddy, Teddy, until I'd shout, Teddy, lunch, lunch, which would always propel him back to me with that happy grin. Food was his second favorite thing besides swimming. We had swimming holes to visit, and there he becomes the subject of a visual short story, playing a game of fetch with me. I wanted to capture the essence of his powerful energy as he swam with a stick in his mouth to bring back to me. This diptych has become the star of an ongoing series of paintings of a very animated Teddy at the swimming hole. So this is called Teddy's Day at the Swimming Hole. I will give you a little bit of detail about these. It's so funny. My sister's name is Teddy, and she had a black lab. So I immediately connected that with my sister Teddy and her black lab buttons. Oh, great. This is Michael Egan. Another abstract piece that I thought could definitely tell a story. There's two pieces by Michael. There's this piece and then the fallout images. So Michael, what he says about both of these, where are we here? Okay. What are we on? Which one are we on first? Okay, so this is the fallout images. And Michael says about the fallout images, ending a relationship is a very challenging experience. Inevitably, all breakups contain fallout. This work contains a representation of such elements. And then on the back of the canvas, there are, I don't know if I can pull it up, but there is a sketch on the back of the canvas, sort of like a layout mapping out each of these different elements on the canvas. The second piece is called Vincent Starr. It's acrylic on canvas mounted on wood panel. And Michael says, looking at the stars always makes me dream, as simply as I dream over the black dots representing towns and villages on a map. Why, I ask myself, shouldn't the shining dots of the sky be as accessible as the black dots on the map of France? Just as we take a train to get to Tarascon, we take death to reach a star. That's a quote from Van Gogh from 1888. Our next artist are a few pieces by Suzanne Parker. This is called She Will Be Missed. Suzanne brought this to me at the last minute, and you know, obviously it's an homage to the great RGB. This is a it's mixed media on canvas. It measures 18 by 18. And I don't think that Suzanne, no, she didn't. Okay. The second piece, this is called Trumpula 2020. That I think speaks for itself. And then the third piece, this is called Creepy Baby. It's acrylic with jute on wood. And this one measures 20 by 20. The other two are fairly small. All right, we have a few pieces by Shelly Davis. This is called We Say Bad Words All of the Time. And knowing Shelly's work, Shelly does a lot of collage. She lives here in Malden. I'm sure there's lots to look through in the collage here. Lots of little hidden gems, perhaps maybe some bad words here and there, Shelly. This second piece is called Everything She Loves. It's a mixed media. It measures 8 by 12 and it's framed to 10 by 14. And that actually looks like Shelly's dog, Hina. Susan Murphy. It's really interesting. I think that this is a piece that will send people to different places. Susan didn't really have much to say about it. She created it, and I think it was sort of intentional that people can sort of look and see for themselves what they discover inside of it. There could be some joy, there could be some fear. You tell me, write it out for me. So this is called Liftoff. The second piece by Susan is called Awakening. Susan said this isn't really a, she didn't want people, she knows that people will definitely, automatically go to Catholicism, but that's not necessarily what she was looking at. It was more of like a traditional Renaissance kind of painting. Suzanne Kirchner, this is called Shatter. It's 2019. I've had Suzanne's work in a number of different shows. I thought this was really, really vibrant. Another abstract piece that could certainly lead someone to a story. Let me just find what Suzanne had sent me. This work expresses emotion, whether it is calm and peaceful or coping with loss and moving forward. The use of color, value, and repetition of shape within each piece further reinforces the emotional quality of each piece. So this is the first piece, and then this is the second piece called Wishing Rock. It's all India ink. Suzanne does a lot of pointillism and squiggles. So this entire piece is made out of all very detailed squiggles. I admire folks, artists that have the stamina and the patience to do something like this, like pointillism, like, Eileen, what you do with the egg tempera is, I so admire that. It's very brave. This is by Pamela Tucker. Pamela, this is called Costume Child. It's oil on linen on board. It measures 12 by 9, and it's framed from 13 by 10. And again, this actually reminded me a little bit of a Lowell Barr piece, if you know Lowell's work, but I was automatically drawn to it. It has a little dark side to it. I didn't initially notice the witch's hat that she was wearing. I saw it at first as more of a dunce's cap. Elaine, I saw Elaine here. Let's bring it. Here you are. Okay. Hi, Elaine. Welcome. I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. How are you?
I'm great. Good to see you. We've got two pieces by Elaine.
This first one, I got this big thing in the middle. Okay. This first one is the Catskill Mountains, and it's pastel, but what I did before I put the pastel on was I used an acrylic wash underneath it, and then I used pastels over it. And it's, for me, it tells a story of maybe going camping and waking up in the morning and the air is crisp and it's an October day and the mist is still lying heavy on the mountains and you can see a little reflection in the water. The second piece.
This one reminded me of camping, waking up in the morning.
This one reminds you of camping. This one, originally I did this one with, this is also pastel. And pastel is pure color too, so that's the nice thing about it. But this one I wanted, it was a regular mountain view and I didn't like it. So I wanted to create more of a mood, make it more mysterious. And so I added the fog to, try to evoke that feeling of mystery and not knowing what you're going to see when the sun comes out. Could be a totally different experience. So that's about it.
Beautiful.
Feeling the mystery of nature.
Yep. And there's definitely some stories in there. There's a lot going on, I'm sure, and we never know what's going on in the woods, right?
Right.
All right, thanks, Elaine.
Thank you. Love the show.
Give Ruby my best.
Oh, she's right here.
Hi, Ruby. All right. This is by Cindy Somero. Cindy, this is another piece that I was immediately drawn to, the darker side of me. This is called Home is Where the Heart Is. It's #1. It's #1 in a series. It's a monoprint with mixed media, measures 14 by 11, framed to 20 by 16, and it's 2020. And I think this can really lend itself to a creepy story, at least. Okay, Tracy Levitt. Tracy, I think I saw you here. Are you here? Let's see.
There we go.
Oh, here you are. I see you. Welcome.
Hi.
Good to see you. Tracy's got 2 pieces here. They're both from the Lazy Love series. I think this is #4. And then we've got #1.
Yep.
So welcome, Tracy. Tell us about these.
Thank you. Thank you for having me in the show and for gathering us together. I have my pal Pearl here. These pieces are a series of 6 wherein I was exploring my parents' relationship, which was always tempestuous at best. And I didn't really appreciate that when I was younger, but as I grew older, I realized that it was a form of love, and I named it Lazy Love. These were created with oil and cold wax on a multimedia board, and I think they're both 11 by 11, I think, and framed in a 13 by 13 inch frame. They were created a little bit differently than what I usually do, because I had with me, where I was making these, I was in residence in Arizona, I had with me a lot of photographs of the family. So I took one of my father and one of my mother and made stencils out of them and used them in a layering technique with the cold wax and oil colors. They do tell a story to me, and that's sort of how I work often, is to start at the beginning of a narrative in my mind, and by the time I get to the end of a series of pieces, I've worked something out about it. Different things, of course, for different ideas, but this one for me came around to be very positive in the end. And that's it, I think.
It's a wonderful series. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to have your work here again.
Thank you so much. See you soon.
All right. Our next piece is by Barbara Tepper Levy. Barbara has a whole series. This is called Drowning in Gin. She's got a whole series of line drawings. Most of them are all female-based. This one is, I think, could really lend itself to a classic story, current story, so many things. Patty Gibbons. Patty, I saw you here. I don't know if you wanted to join us.
If you have time, I would love to.
All the time in the world for you. Absolutely.
Thank you, Robert.
Welcome. So Patty has 2 pieces. This is the one that's hanging in the gallery. I'm looking at it right now. And then this is an additional piece that's just on Artsy. And I picked them because one is called Motherhood and one is called Youth. And I think they bounce off each other nicely. So please tell us about them, Patty.
Thank you for having me, Robert. I love the narrative, and collage lends itself so well to the narrative. So I chose collage for it. But there's a little story behind it, and that is this was done in the first couple months of COVID, and I was very blocked. I wasn't able to make art, whether, I don't know if it was because I burnt out from so many shows, or just from the shock of dealing with the drama and trauma of COVID. So I found myself not being able to make any work, and out of desperation, I pulled a book off the shelf, which was a Nick Bantock book that Lowell Barr had told me about, called The Trickster's Hat. And I started doing exercises in it to loosen me up, to get me thinking. And I came upon one that was an assignment to do 3 small collages that were autobiographical. And the 3 were childhood, youth, and adulthood. And that really got me going. And I went through my images. I work with antique paper because I design a lot with it, and most of it's copyright free, so I don't have to worry about it if I reproduce it in any way. And so each collage has its own autobiographical story. This one is youth and about the pain of adolescence and young motherhood. And what I like about collages, you can also bring your own story to the piece, hopefully, and relate to it in some way. And then the next piece is, I called it Motherhood because it was a very difficult time in my life, but yet there's hope in the future. As you can see, the only areas that are colored are reverse collage. They're cut out and they contain color and light, and they represent hope for a better tomorrow should the person take that choice. And of course, you know, there's other stories that are going in, which I will leave to your imagination. I think that explains them fairly well. And I will probably continue the series. I think it's interesting to me, and I'll probably do a few more.
I think they fit perfectly in the show, Patty. And again, if you're just joining us, the whole show is about, it's all very narrative work. So I'm encouraging writers to connect with a piece or 2 or 3 or 4 and just finish writing the story that the artists have started in their work. This presentation is giving a little bit of background about each piece. So that might give you a little information and a little jumping point. But the work should really get you there too. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
And speaking of Lowell Barr, we have 2 pieces by Lowell's. Lowell, I just saw you. I'm going to bring you up. All right, welcome. And I think this is called Canvas Morning, right? Kansas Morning.
Yes.
Hello.
Oops.
And
I'm
the
unmuted.
second is called Lakeside.
Yes.
All right.
Which one to do first?
Whichever one you'd prefer.
Okay, you're on Lakeside. So this is an autobiographical picture of when I was in college, and it's an old slide that I found. That was it's my husband to be, and then later to be an ex-husband, and a couple of friends of ours who later got married. And Kansas doesn't have much in the way of water sides, but we have some sort of inland lakes that are better than nothing. They're brown, they're not blue, and they're in the prairies. But you know, you could take some beer and a 6-pack and a picnic and hang out and get a sunburn for a day. And that's what we were doing. But I just liked the composition. I liked the figures and what was going on, and the couple and the old car.
It's definitely captures a moment in time. It reminds me a lot of, you know, just like 60s and 70s.
Yeah, it has very snapshot quality, which I like.
And then the second one, this is your Kansas upbringing, I know.
This is, yeah, all of these are Kansas for some reason. This one I did a few years ago. It was based on a trip I took back to Kansas maybe 6 or 8 years ago. And so the sky, the building, the farmhouse, the windmill was all taken from shots out the window. And the girls I colorized. Those are my mother and her two sisters in the early 19 teens. She was born in 1908, and that's her on the left with the pink dress, and her sister Emma in the middle and Lois on the right. And then the little guy leading the chickens, those were little toys I had that I scanned and put in. And why he's leading the chickens is up for somebody to tell a story about.
Yep, I'm sure that's a story for sure.
And the first one was painted digitally on the iPad. This one was done more traditionally with just, that's the iPad painting. And The Morning in Kansas was done with scans and Photoshop.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lola.
You're welcome, Robert. Thanks for inviting me.
Yep. Good stuff. And speaking of good stuff, hi, Andrea. This is work by Andrea Geller. Andrea has, this is a large piece. Want to mention again that Andrea has a whole series on the Emerge Gallery Artsy page of her bath series, and it's different stages of people getting in, staying in, and getting out of the bath. Really gorgeous pieces. I was actually just talking to someone about them today. So if you haven't had a chance to look at them, please go on Artsy and have a look. But Andrea, please tell us about the pool series.
Okay, so I wrote something. Since childhood, I found myself drawn to all bodies of water. I spent the summers at a local public pool. It was one of the highlights of my life. And I would often find myself in the deep end of the pool, walking to the diving area, climbing the rungs of the diving board, diving or jumping off the board, swimming to the ladder, and repeating the process. I found the water often a shock, but also very refreshing and invigorating. I could do this motion for hours. I now know that this was indicative of my love of motion and the energy derived by being around water, any body of water for that matter. So it was no surprise that my family found their way to the Paramus pool once we moved to this town 27 years ago. And I photographed my own children's actions and have been working with that reference along with more contemporary images for this new body of pool paintings. I also was, was thinking about what somebody just recently said about COVID. I didn't think our town pool was going to open this summer, and back in March and April, and it really was a depressing thought that I would not have access to this blue body of water. But they did end up opening, and I found that it really is a release or relief to be able to not always think about the heavy world events that are going around. So I choose to, when I paint, I could go in either direction, but for these series, it really is a good mental release.
Andrea's got a great way. You must be a Pisces. Are you?
I am a Pisces.
You are, okay. Because Andrea has a real connection to water. She has the bath series, as I said. She has a whole gorgeous series of glaciers, and then the pool series. So, I mean, you're definitely connected with water, and I think that your mermaid is coming out with in the paintings.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea. Always a pleasure. Linda Linton, welcome. This is, I like this piece. This reminds me of Jersey Shore.
Well, in fact, it is the Jersey Shore. A couple of years ago, I was traveling around visiting various friends who live on the coast, going from Connecticut right down to Long Beach, and it was inspiring. We live in the hills here, and I've always seemed to be attracted to mountains, so it's wonderful just to get down to the water, to the sea. And what I found really interesting is it brought back a lot of memories for me, because I was brought up in the East End of London, and London is on an estuary, and you have seagulls everywhere. And it was almost like coming home. just seeing all the seagulls, because they're totally unafraid of people. You know, we're in the way, you know, from a seagull point of view. So it was wonderful just being able to relive that. And yeah, I did a whole series, as you know, some of them are on Artsy and the Orange Show. I did a whole series of seashore paintings, some being the Jersey Shore and also some being in Connecticut. But yeah, that was, and then of course you included another one, which is a plein air from, where I live, I'm surrounded by trees. And I actually did this in the fading light. It was really, the light was going, and it just struck me. There was a sense of life, because this was in the summer, and you know, you start hearing the insects and the tree frogs, and all of that was coming out. The light was descending, all of the sounds were coming up. So they're two totally different, you know, things. They're two different series, basically, of paintings. But that's why I called this one Nightlife, because it was getting darker and darker and darker, and the tree trunks were showing up and the sounds were coming up. So that, yeah, that's my story for those.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Linda?
Right.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, pleasure being here.
And then Melissa. Melissa, are you here? Melissa Harris? Don't think so. No. Okay. So there's two pieces by Melissa Harris. Melissa is an artist here in the Hudson Valley. This is called Green Room. It's oil on canvas. And then the second is called A Change in Course. This one is oil on paper. I thought both of them had a really peaceful feel to it. It had a little bit of women power, female power, a little bit of female energy to it. So I thought, I don't know, I just thought it would really lend itself nicely to the written word. Now we have Margaret Still. Margaret Still, one of, I can't pick favorites. It's like kids, but Margaret is one of my, I love Margaret's work. I just think it's fantastic. This is called Celestial Storage Units, made in North Carolina. It's oil on wood. It measures 24 by 18. And Margaret uses mostly her travels, photos from her travels. She travels a lot with her husband, and takes images here and there, and recreates them in a very simple but a really effective way. And then our last pieces, these are by Barbara Masterson. Barbara has a whole series of oil works where Barbara's been spending some time with farm workers in the Hudson Valley, getting to know them, getting to know their stories, really engaging with them before she even picks up the brush and then paints them. It's a gorgeous series. This particular piece is called Ronin and Crew. It's oil on canvas. It measures 48 by 48. And then the second piece, this is called Brothers, Sons, and Fathers, also 48 by 30. Okay, so that's all the art in the show. I wanted to, again, let people know what the show is about. It is a very narrative show called Tell Me a Story. So the whole idea is these are jumping off points for writers to get inspired and write a little something about the artwork. Hopefully finish the stories that the artist started in their art. I'm encouraging writers to spend a little time with the pieces, select as many as you like, actually. And you can email me what you've come up with. It's emergegalleryny@gmail.com. I will publish the results on the Emerge Gallery website. And then I'm going to be doing another one of these virtual things on October 25th. It's a Sunday from 3 to 5. where writers can share the stories that they have written for the artwork. Also, if you are in Saugerties, doing a quick little preview as part of the closing celebration for Shout Out Saugerties. There is going to be maybe about two writers that are going to come in and read their work. I know Lucinda had committed to coming and reading what she's written for Fear. And then I'll probably be bringing one more, but it's just a quick little preview, part of a celebration for everything that's going on in the arts in Saugerties and the great work that Shout Out Saugerties is doing. I encourage you to look them up too. It's shoutoutsaugerties.org, and they are co-sponsoring this show. Also want to let you know a little bit about the work that I have on Artsy. Again, all of this work is available for you to spend a little time with on Artsy. It's artsy.net, and then just look up Emerge Gallery NY, and that'll bring you right there. You'll find works from this show, additional works as well, that are just on Artsy for this show. We also have an online exclusive. It's called Orange Juice, and it is all art featuring orange. That's an online exclusive with a bunch of artists and some really, really good work. I was really pleased with the work that is exhibited in that virtual show. Also have a few solo shows that are going on Artsy. One just opened yesterday, Barbara Adrian Rosen. She is an artist here in Woodstock that uses a lot of found materials and handmade papers to create landscape collages, very abstract. They're just gorgeous. That opened yesterday, so have a look at that. Also have a show of JD Weiss's work. JD is a photographer here in Woodstock. She uses traditional 2¼ camera, a lot of landscape, some abstract, a little bit of everything, but her photography is just stunning. Also have a show by Leslie Bozzi. Leslie uses a lot of different materials for her work. She's in her work, she has these acrylic skins, wall rags, she calls them, that you can sort of put in on the wall in different configurations. They're a lot of fun. She has a great sense of really playing with her art. So that's Leslie Bozzi, Wrapping Unveiling. We also have some shows coming up by Ed Berkey's. We have a show coming up by Lynn McCreary and Marjorie Magid. We're going to have a nice collection of all of her work, a lot of whimsical work. So please spend a little time on Artsy, have a look at all of the art available. This is a really talented community here in the Hudson Valley, and I'm so pleased to be able to have the opportunity to introduce it to you all. Again, the work that I exhibit is mostly all local artists in the Hudson Valley, New York metropolitan area. I still keep a lot of ties to my New Jersey friends, and you'll see them popping up every once in a while here. So thanks everybody for joining us. I'm hoping that you were inspired to write something, and we'll let's see what you wrote. So please have a look at all the art, get inspired, and come join the reading on the 25th. So thanks everyone, and again, have a great week and happy creating. Thanks.